Hey friends, my name is Mitch. Welcome to Made by Mitch, where I show you the things I make and what I learned making them. So a couple months ago, I put a video out of me making a writing desk. And to make that desk, I had to get two different pieces of wood and I had to glue them up. And so to do that, I used a dowel jig, which I made myself. Now in the video, I put out there if anyone would be interested in me showing how I made this, and I did have some people that were interested in that. So that's what we're gonna do in today's video. Let's get started. So this was a very simple project to do, and all you needed was a piece of plexiglass and a small block of wood along with a couple of wood screws. And the first thing I did was I measured the block of wood down to the size that I would need to use for my dowel jig. I cut that using the jigsaw and then used the belt sander to sand it down. Next I had to get the piece of plexiglass down to a usable size. So I measured the width using the block of wood and then put a level where I would score the line with a utility knife. And then I just made several passes with the knife and then tried to break this apart. Now you could probably use a table saw or any other kind of saw to cut this, but I just decided to use this method and it worked just fine. If I had this to do over again, I would probably use a thicker piece of plexiglass, but this is what I had, so it's what I used. The edges were a little bit rough after cutting this, so I used some sandpaper just to smooth out the edges. And then I could drill the hole through the block of wood that I would be using to drill my dowel holes. Now this is a really important part, so I made sure that the block was completely level with the surface I was drilling down into. I clamped this using a couple clamps onto my workbench. Then I used a speed square to try to find the very center of the block of wood. I started out with a very small bit, that way I can make sure my hole was placed right and it was really straight. It's very important that you make sure this is really straight up and down when you're drilling these holes. And then I just used a little bit larger bit, and then the third and final bit that I would be using for my dowel jig. After the hole was drilled into the block of wood, I could put my piece of plexiglass on there and start to assemble this project together. You're probably wondering at this point, why would you build a dowel jig when you can buy one for just $15 online? And you're totally right, I could have bought one for this project, but I was in a time crunch for this project, so I threw one together real quick just so that I can get the project moving forward a little quicker. But the next thing I had to do was to mark the center of the hole. This was all that I had to do to put this together. The biggest part you want to make sure is that your hole is straight in the middle of the block and that the line is perfectly in line with the center of the hole, so your dowels will be straight. To use this, what you'll need is your two pieces of wood, both flat on each side, that you're going to be joining together. And I used a level just to mark each place that the dowel would be. And then I lined up the mark on the plexiglass of my dowel jig with the mark on the piece of wood. I clamped it on there and then used the drill to make my dowel hole. This would have been a lot easier if I would have had a thicker piece of plexiglass for this. And then once I got the holes drilled, I just pounded in the dowels for this, and then I could join the two boards together. After you test fit a piece with a joint like this, you can take it back apart and then add your glue and then reassemble, and then you'll have a nice joint, and you know the dowels are going to strengthen that so your tabletop will be nice and strong. This was a really easy project that only took me about 20 minutes total to do, so I hope this video was helpful. Click right here to check out the video of the desk I made with this jig. Also, you can click here to subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next project.